when it comes to this Clemson team struggling, folks, if you haven't watched Clemson football, just check out the game-by-game numbers, because unless something different happens this week, this game's going to go down to the last 5 minutes of the game, because Clemson's 3-2 in the conference. They lost to Pitt, North Carolina State, one game in overtime, lost to Pitt last week. It was pretty much a one-score game most of the way. Pitt kicked a field goal late to widen that out to 27-17 final. So, they're still a decent team, obviously good talent on both sides of the ball, exceptional talent, a lot of it hurt, but they probably lost to what most people would consider to be the two best teams in the conference, probably NC State and Pitt in close games, but also their 3 wins. Their 3 wins, they didn't roll anyone. Georgia Tech, they needed a goal line stand to save that game. Boston College, I was checking that game out, and BC got the ball inside the 10, down 6. We're talking with 45 seconds left, could have won the game. They kick a snap, and Clemson survived that. And all their wins have been the Syracuse game, just like the Florida State-Syracuse game, came down to last possession, last few plays of the game, 17-14. So Clemson has not put it on anyone in the ACC in 5 games.
Yeah, no, they have not. And Florida State can, like I said earlier, they can take advantage of this, or they can go in and just screw it up. But the only thing that coming out of these practices the last 2 days we were there is just the factor of their mentality. I mean, today was the most competitive practice I've seen all season. And I know you've got that energy going into a big game, but it was just strictly really good competition, guys being in the right spots, guys listening. I mean, there was no breaks. I mean, everybody knows if you're in our Discord, there's only about a 5-minute water break. And then after that, it is just nonstop boot camp for the next hour and a half, nonstop. Guys one-on-ones, a lot of physicality too this week too, worth noting. And, talk about health-wise for Florida State, Devontae Love-Taylor is expected to be the starter on that offensive line on Saturday. But, you also don't know about Dylan Gibbons, who's been a great addition on the offensive line and bringing that veteran experience to the front line. We're going to have to keep an eye out if he'll be a participant. I would expect Bavion Johnson to come in if Gibbons is not available right now. I do think it will be Bavion that takes Gibbons' place. It just depends. Like I said, it'll be a game time kind of decision, but right now I'm feeling Bavion Johnson will have to come in and as a 5th-year veteran come in and, bring the heat. And he's got experience. Obviously, came in as a really highly touted recruit, and they're going to put him at guard for Gibbons if he's not available. So, health-wise overall, though, other than that, we still don't know about Sidney Williams, safety for FSU, if he'll be a full go. But Florida State feels, I think, pretty comfortable, too, in that safety room with guys that have had a lot of playing time, a lot of experience, talented, too. And, I think overall, on the health side, Florida State feels optimistic heading into this one. And that bye week was much needed. And going into Jacksonville State, allowing some starters to get a lot of rest for that game is key, including Devontae Love-Taylor, one of the best offensive linemen for Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State, 3 straight in, 4 down, 3-4 at this point. Clemson at 4-3. And obviously, we talk all off season about what games are going to be won, which games are going to be lost, what's toss up. And this was the number 1 on the loss list. Everybody agreed on that. And that's not necessarily the case now. So,
yeah.
You remember well going back 5 years or so. I find these kind of things really interesting and looking at trajectory of programs. So Florida State owned the conference for a long, long time. Overall, from the time they joined the conference, they owned the ACC. But most notably, obviously, under Jimbo, national championship in 2013, and then the 2014 run to the playoffs again, had won the conference, about 4 consecutive years. Then 2015 comes, and, you saw it over the next 3 years where Clemson took over and that transition happened. And of course, Jimbo leaves. His last 2 teams lost to Clemson, but really close games. You could see where they were kind of, meeting, and that transition was going on. And now, after Clemson's owned it for 5 or 6 years, we'll see if Florida State, certainly it's different than it was then, because they were definitely the two best programs in the conference. And now who knows who is. It's all over the place. You still got to consider Clemson to be the best program. But in terms of the best team in this conference, I've got no clue, because my goodness, I did ACC power rankings. I have yet to produce the video, and throw out Duke and everybody else. Man, anybody could be playing anybody this weekend. And if you told me Boston College is playing NC State, or Pitt's playing Syracuse, or throw any game out there, anybody could beat anybody. It's a crazy conference.
It is wild right now. It is just bad crap crazy. That's what it is right now. I mean, the fun part about it is, though, that Clemson's not up there, so they're a little vulnerable for Florida State right now. But other than that, I mean, Wake Forest, who would have ever thought that was kind of going to happen? I mean, they got a veteran quarterback, but it's just such a weird time right now. But it kind of feels like this should have been the season last year where things were a little wild, but that wasn't the case, and it's heading into this year. And a lot of teams making some moves. A lot of transfers happened to some of these ACC schools, including some Florida State transfers going over and excelling at other institutions. But it's such a weird thing to see. Florida State, the start of this season, be one of the lowest kind of power ranked teams, whatever you want to call it, and now they're reaching into that top 7, top 6 kind of area where some people are ranking them just because of the streak they're on. Am I fully sold on it? Just off of the competition they've played? Not exactly. I know Syracuse is doing its thing, and people are talking very highly. I think some national people are looking just at a 3-game winning streak and maybe not looking at the competition that Florida State has faced. But I'm not fully entirely sold on it, but this weekend it could really get me. I mean, you look back at the North Carolina game, though. I mean, they weren't supposed to really entirely win that game either. I mean, let's be honest with that. I mean, I don't think a lot of us predicted before the season that Florida State would win that game, but they go up there and, I mean, they handled that game the entire game, the whole 60 minutes. But, going into now Clemson, it just seems like a different animal. I don't know if it's just because Mac Brown can never beat Florida State ever in his tenure as a head coach, or, looking in Death Valley with Dabo Sweeney. I think it's going to be this will be a game where will be fun to see both head coaches going at it. You kind of don't usually get that as much, but two really smart head coaches just going at one another. And